Hello and welcome to part 4, the final episode in the series, The State of America's Beef Industry. Now in parts 1 through 3, we talked about how in just over a generation, the U.S. cattle industry had succumbed to an oligopolistic market structure created by global beef packers with unlimited access to lower cost and undifferentiated imports. And this caused the U.S. cattle industry to contract in terms of the number of cattle producers, number of cattle, and number of feedlots. It also caused a distortion of competitive market forces that altered the competitive allocation of the consumer's beef dollar along the entire supply chain. It severed the historical relationship between cattle prices and beef prices, and it relegated the cattle industry incapable of withstanding even moderate economic shocks. We ended part 3 by explaining that the second economic shock, the drought that struck in late 2020, occurred as the cattle industry was already liquidating due to 5 years of depressed cattle prices, which occurred even though beef prices were rising. We then explained that the global beef packers were importing record volumes of beef from around the world to supplement the domestic cattle industry's production shortfall. And though record imports had historically driven domestic cattle prices downward, the supply of domestic cattle was so incredibly tight that cattle prices broke free from their restraints and began chasing beef prices skyward. Now, the recent surge in cattle prices reduced the global beef packers' long-term record margins earned from the slaughter of domestic cattle, though their lost margins from cattle slaughter don't reflect the additional revenues they earned from importing record volumes of cheaper beef. Now, we've never faced such extreme conditions in our industry before. Record high beef prices, record high cattle prices, record high imports, and a record low inventory of cows. These extreme conditions have changed the allocation of the consumer beef dollar, with the live cattle industry now receiving a 53.5% share and the beef packers' share shrinking considerably from its high in 2021. Now, on all accounts, the U.S. cattle industry should have begun expanding the U.S. cowherd beginning in 2023. That's when cattle prices first reached what was then an historical high price. But it didn't, and it still hasn't today. The cattle crash of 2015 is still on the minds of America's cattle farmers and ranchers, and with record volumes of imports and no changes to the structure of the U.S. cattle industry, they are weary of making the investment to expand, knowing the marketplace remains fundamentally broken. We're facing these extreme conditions today because for decades, America shirked responsibility for ensuring that competitive market forces and not monopolistic power augmented with access to cheaper product substitutes would determine the destiny for an industry that recently had over 1 million widely dispersed, hardworking, and economy-contributing participants, as well as for the hundreds of millions of consumers who deserve and expect an abundant supply of affordable, safe, and wholesome food, in this case, beef. And so, what must be done? Well, we must reconnect the severed relationship between cattle prices and beef prices by countering the debilitating forces of monopolistic market power with competition. Enacting mandatory country of origin labeling for beef will empower consumers to initiate demand signals for beef that is born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States or for beef produced elsewhere. Consumers deserve that choice, and American cattle producers deserve the opportunity to realize a demand signal for U.S. cattle each time consumers choose an exclusively domestic beef product. Implementing rules to administer and enforce the Packers and Stockyards Act will rebalance the disparate market power between the highly concentrated beef packers and widely disaggregated cattle producers and result in increased price transparency within the beef supply chain. Rigorously enforcing antitrust laws will provide opportunities for the establishment of more and more widely dispersed packing and processing plants and more competition among them. Second, we must realign trade policy with our food security interest of becoming self-reliant in beef production, establishing worldwide tariff rate quotas at levels that will not impede the domestic cattle industry's responsiveness to changes in America's demand for domestic beef. And establishing tariffs on imported cattle and beef will offset the disparity in production costs caused by weak currencies, low wage rates, and weaker production and safety standards. Now, these reforms will cost U.S. taxpayers nothing, but they will rebuild the competitive market forces in the marketplace, ensuring that American farmers and ranchers can provide American consumers an affordable, safe, and abundant supply of beef for generations to come. With that, I'm Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle and sheep producer in the United States of America. Have a productive week, and thank you.